All right, well, this presentation should be a little bit shorter. I'm just going to go over the readings for the week two, January 24th to 28th. So let's get started and talk about our readings this week. And you probably know already that we started talking about the reading Hills Like White Elephants. You might remember last week if you got to watch last week's video. If not, you can always go back and look at that. That's in the course content folder for week one. You might notice that we looked at who are the characters. So I asked you to kind of consider. Remember, there were just two really important main characters in our stories, Hills Like White Elephants. And these are things that you could look at for all the short stories that we read this semester. And then also, what's the setting? What's the place this is taking place? We know we're in Spain. We talked about that. Maybe trying to figure out when and where the story's happening. Also looking at the language. These are things you can do as you read through. And finally, the point of view. Who's telling the story? Is it coming from the first person? Is somebody saying, I did this, we went here, she said that? Or is it more, second person, which would be something like you. You go to the train station, you meet your friend, you have a beer. Is this, how it's being told? Or is it third person? He did this, she did this, the man said that, the girl said this. So I think you can get the idea that our story is a third person point of view. So again, these are things you can look at as you look at the story. And then finally, themes. Are there any universal themes that you see coming up? Ideas that most people could probably relate to. For our reading summaries this week, wait, I should have had a file here. Whoops. Somehow I did not get those other files added to this. Let me see if I can find those. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, good. It just didn't show up on the first slide for some reason. So let's take a look at that. So this is from somewhere in the middle of our story, Hills Like White Elephants. And I wanted to look at this section in particular because I think it shows two things. One is, remember we talked about Hemingway has this kind of iceberg method. Some people have described it as that, where there's a lot going on under the surface, but on the surface, it's not always very clear what he's trying to say. So if we look at some of this dialogue here, let me just read through this for you guys. I'm not going to try to do voice acting, don't worry. But and if I do it, you'll be happy and things will be like they were and you'll love me. Now remember, they're trying to make an important decision in this story. And also remember, I've asked you guys for your first essay, you're going to summarize the story as best you can briefly, and then talk about maybe an important decision you had to make in your life or an important decision you might have to make in the future, but especially that process that you might go through when you're trying to make an important decision. Usually a process has steps, right? Like this is the first thing I would do and so on. But anyway, let's look at this because they're trying to make this important decision. So is she going to do this thing, again, that's kind of under the surface that we're maybe not sure what he's asking her to do, but let's look at this. And again, she says, and if I do it, you'll be happy and things will be like they were and you'll love me. I love you now. You know I love you. I know. But if I do it, then it will be nice again. If I say things are like white elephants, and you'll like it. I'll love it. I love you now, but I just can't think about it. You know how I get when I worry. If I do it, you won't ever worry? I won't worry about that because it's perfectly simple. Then I'll do it because I don't care about me. What do you mean? I don't care about me. Well, I care about you. Oh, yes, but I don't care about me. And I'll do it, and then everything will be fine. I don't want you to do it if you feel that way. So again, there's this back and forth you can see in the story, but I think this is a very important kind of, illustrates there's obviously something they're not saying, right? They just say do it, right? So try to figure that out as you read. Maybe you have a hypothesis or a guess, or you already kind of think you know what they're trying to decide. But if you haven't, it's a very brief short story. So, take a look at it again if you're not getting that. But again, what are they trying to decide here? This young couple, this man and this girl, as they're described, the American and the girl in the story, and also, you might notice here one thing that's kind of hard sometimes for people about Hemingway's writing, even though he writes pretty simply in a lot of ways, is there's not anything what I would call attributive tags. An attributive tag is when you make a quotation like this. You'll notice all their dialogues. These are exact words that they're saying in quotation marks. Usually you might say he said or she said, but as you notice, there's not a lot of that here. And you kind of just have to figure out who's saying what based on, either the way they say it or the order, right? So obviously, if you're reading this at the top, think about it. And if I do it, you'll be happy. Now remember, he's trying to pressure, it seems like, the girl into doing something. So we know this first line is the girl. And as you read through again, if you're having any trouble with this, if it gets confusing, you might try to, go back and start with the order, because usually you're only going to change the quotation marks when you get to the next person, right? So this means that if this is the girl speaking, this has to be the man. Now, again, you can probably figure that out just by the sound of it and what they're saying, but still, if it ever is a struggle, and it can be with Hemingway, because a lot of times he doesn't put those what I call attributive tags. And by the way, one of the reasons I'm mentioning this is when you write your essays, if you quote anyone, it is good to put those attributive tags. In other words, in essay writing, it's a little more usually like the article by Jameson stated that, and then you put your quote, right? So again, Hemingway doesn't do that here. He depends on his writing being clear enough so that you can sort of figure out who's saying what. And I think sometimes it makes his writing seem more immediate, like you're just right there experiencing it, because he doesn't say he said, she said too often, especially in this story. All right, so this is just a little bit of dialogue. Again, I wanted to look at this to get more into the reading this week. But remember, the other readings that we have for this week are related to our summary and our journal. So I did ask you if you could read this article, Grand Challenges, and that's going to be posted in the course content folder for week 2. And it's really brief, and it's mostly almost more like an infographic. It has all these kinds of world problems, different challenges that we're facing as a world today. And this was written in 2019, so it's not brand new. And I think it's interesting. Right before the pandemic started, this was written. Some of these things have gotten worse, I think, and are bigger problems. Maybe some of them less so. So take a look at that for your reading summary. Remember, the reading summary, you try to answer those questions with the reading summary. And then for our journal this week, remember your journals, you can write about anything, but I always give you a prompt, but you can also write about other things going on in your life. And this is the prompt. And if you want to pause this, but this is also in the course content folder for this week. All right. Well, like I said, I try to keep the reading lectures fairly brief. So that's the main thing this week. We've got these, if you haven't read Hills Like White Elephants, you'll need to do that so you can summarize it for your rough draft of your essay. And then you have your readings for the short readings from our library databases. That will be for our journals and our summaries. And again, reminder, I keep repeating myself, I know, but I want everybody to get it. And since we're not seeing each other face to face, journals and summaries are due at the end of the semester. But I just recommend that you do them weekly and then save them in one file, and you'll be able to upload that file at the end of the semester. All right, well, happy reading, I hope, this week. And I will see you in the next video, or office hours, which are Mondays and Tuesdays from 1 to 2. Online in the course room, or if you're on campus starting January 31st, I will have office hours I'll be in my office from 12 to 1 on Mondays and Thursdays too. So if you want to even stop by and talk face to face, we could do that. All right, I'll see you soon.